There is nothing gracious about Donald Trump's exit from the White House. In a video message just released, he acknowledges there'll be a new administration, but emphasises it'll need a lot of luck. He's leaving Washington before Joe Biden's inauguration in the wake of his second impeachment as president for inciting the riots that led to 5 deaths in the heart of the US democracy, the Capitol building. Donald Trump insists his political movement is only just beginning.
Always allowed America to prevail and triumph over the great challenges of the past has been an unyielding and unashamed conviction in the nobility of our country and its unique purpose in history. We must never lose this conviction. We must never forsake our belief in America. The key to national greatness lies in sustaining and instilling our shared national identity. That means focusing on what we have in common, the heritage that we all share. At the center of this heritage is also a robust belief in free expression, free speech, and open debate. Only if we forget who we are and how we got here could we ever allow political censorship and blacklisting to take place in America. It's not even thinkable. Shutting down free and open debate violates our core values and most enduring traditions. In America, we don't insist on absolute conformity or enforce rigid orthodoxies and punitive speech codes. We just don't do that. America is not a timid nation of tame souls who need to be sheltered and protected from those with whom we disagree. That's not who we are. It will never be who we are. For nearly 250 years, in the face of every challenge, Americans have always summoned our unmatched courage, confidence, and fierce independence. These are the miraculous traits that once led millions of everyday citizens to set out across a wild continent and carve out a new life in the Great West. It was the same profound love of our God-given freedom that willed our soldiers into battle and our astronauts into space. As I think back on the past 4 years, one image rises in my mind above all others. Whenever I traveled all along the motorcade route, there were thousands and thousands of people. They came out with their families so that they could stand as we passed and proudly wave our great American flag. It never failed to deeply move me. I knew that they did not just come out to show their support of me. They came out to show me their support and love for our country. This is a republic of proud citizens who are united by our common conviction that America is the greatest nation in all of history. We are and must always be a land of hope, of light, and of glory to all the world. This is the precious inheritance that we must safeguard at every single turn. For the past 4 years, I have worked to do just that. From a great hall of Muslim leaders in Riyadh to a great square of Polish people in Warsaw, from the floor of the Korean Assembly to the podium at the United Nations General Assembly, and from the Forbidden City in Beijing to the shadow of Mount Rushmore, I fought for you, I fought for your family, I fought for our country. Above all, I fought for America and all it stands for, and that is safe, strong, proud, and free. Now, as I prepare to hand power over to a new administration at noon on Wednesday, I want you to know that the movement we started is only just beginning. There's never been anything like it. The belief that a nation must serve its citizens will not dwindle, but instead only grow stronger by the day. As long as the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve. Our communities will flourish, our people will be prosperous, our traditions will be cherished, our faith will be strong, and our future will be brighter than ever before. I go from this majestic place with a loyal and joyful heart, an optimistic spirit, and a supreme confidence that for our country and for our children, the best is yet to come. Thank you and farewell. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Donald Trump speaking there in a video message released just in the last hour or so. And US President-elect Joe Biden has held an emotional send-off in his home state before leaving for Washington to be sworn in as president tomorrow. It comes as the US records more than 400,000 coronavirus deaths. Correspondent Greg Jennett joins us now from Washington. Greg, g'day. You've been out on the streets for the last hour or so, but this video message has only just been released while you've been out and about, so you haven't seen it in detail. But what do you make of the overall tone of that?
Yes, it's interesting in its mode of departure, isn't it? From Donald Trump, after all of the turmoil, the tweets, and many would say the chaos of the last 4 years, he bows out in a rather subdued fashion. He did finally check a few boxes of regular decency. That is, he wished the next administration well, but he also recapped what he saw as his achievements. And you also heard there echoes, Joe, of his own inauguration speech almost exactly 4 years ago. And he's trying to cover off the fact that, in his view, there has been advancement on some of the markers he put down about Americans recovering their fate, their destiny, spurning political correctness and censorship. So he's really tracing over where he started, encapsulating the fact that, in his view, there were economic achievements before the pandemic, and then finally, right towards the end, mustering something in himself to acknowledge that it's over to the next team from here.
And has he still refused to acknowledge that Joe Biden legitimately won the election? Like, he's acknowledging that there will be a new administration, but is there this continuing undertone that the election was stolen from him?
Well, there's an absence of specific reference to the incoming president, and a big action that happens tomorrow, our time, that is by being absent from the very inauguration ceremony and breaking a very long tradition of handover there. The symbolism of that moment on Capitol Hill, where the outgoing president gestures towards the incoming, is powerful in and of itself. And Donald Trump has chosen, as a matter of record now, not to participate in that. So are we sensing right to the bitter end a begrudging tone in Donald Trump's transfer? I suppose you could say there are hints of that, definitely. But for Trump the person, even to get to the point where he had some form of acknowledgement in the tail end of that address is at least something, I suppose. And there was, we should also note here, Joe, there was a condemnation of violence as a way of achieving political change as well. That took a little while to come. It's not the first time he's gone there, but he did see fit to lob that into the final farewell message as well.
Okay, Greg, now Joe Biden has touched down in Washington in a private plane. What lies ahead for him?
So he's going to attend a ceremony, a light-filled vigil on the National Mall tonight, Joe. That will be within the perimeter of steel fencing, so no members of the public there, but it will be to pay tribute to the now officially 400,000 plus Americans who've lost their lives in the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's his only public duty really left before he moves into Blair House, just adjacent to the White House, and he'll overnight there. But the big moment for Joe Biden was before he arrived here in Washington, D.C. It was to farewell the people of Delaware and his hometown of Wilmington, where he stood at the National Guard Reserve Centre, named in honour of his late son, Beau Biden, to really thank the people of Delaware for putting him into the Senate 49 years ago and keeping him in public life for all the period that remained, plus the 4 years ahead. Obviously, there was a big upswelling of emotion as he drew close to a very long chapter in the state of Delaware.
You know, it's kind of emotional for me. But look, you're with me my whole career, and through the good times and the bad, I want to thank you for everything. To my fellow Delawareans, on behalf of the entire Biden family that's here today, I want to express how much you mean to me and to every one of us. Excuse the emotion, but when I die, Delaware will be written on my heart.
And Greg, what can you tell us about Donald Trump's last remaining hours in office?
So he is expected to come forth with a round of pardons, perhaps numbering upwards towards 100, Joe. So we're awaiting those names that'll come through the rapidly diminishing White House press office staff. Most have pretty much cleared out by now, but those pardons are expected, and then tomorrow morning, our time, there'll be the final appearance of Donald Trump and his wife Melania when they'll board Marine One, fly out to Joint Base Andrews here and board Air Force One for a flight to Florida. But otherwise, the video message really marked the final set piece, apart from the pardons and the last major sort of verbal pronouncements that do come from Donald Trump. Normally such a communicative figure, but once the social media platforms closed down on him so dramatically a little over a week ago, you just hear so much less of him now, Joe.
And Greg, what's happening in Congress to start preparing the Biden administration for office?
So the Senate sat back for the first time on the floor as a full entity since the Capitol was sieged, and in the back of everyone's minds was how are they going to advance the trial of Donald Trump in the Senate, and when are they going to do that? Well, they've just parked that. There's still no firm timeline for getting on with that trial. But what they are doing is addressing priority number one, which is hearing the confirmations of, or the nominations for confirmation of Joe Biden's cabinet pick. So that's well underway. People like Treasury nominee Janet Yellen was before the committee today answering their questions. But on that all-important question of impeachment and trial, there was an interesting contribution from the Republican former majority leader, Mitch McConnell. He's going to lose that majority very, very shortly. But because they were reconvening for the first time since the Capitol was sieged, he made some pretty blunt comments that he hasn't made before about Donald Trump and the responsibility he should wear for those riotous events.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people. And they tried to use fear and violence to stop a specific proceeding of the first branch of the federal government, which they did not like. But we pressed on. We stood together and said an angry mob would not get veto power over the rule of law in our nation, not even for one night.
So you're sensing a bit of a shifting of the ground within the Republican Party, at least amongst its leadership. Mitch McConnell will go to a church service with Joe Biden, so it is a strong sense of out with the old, in with the new here. However, we shouldn't yet draw too many conclusions about conviction of Donald Trump, the soon-to-be former president, because Mitch McConnell and no other Republican in the Senate has yet declared which way they would vote on. That probably won't until the evidence is before them.
Okay, Greg Jennett there on the streets of Washington.